everyone. This is Twist Gaming, where you get to play board games with us. And we're here at Gen Con 2018, and we're here with Justin from Stoneblade Entertainment. And I see you got some goodies on the table for us.
Oh man, I'm so exciting. Like, Gen Con every year is always an exciting thing for us. It's where we first launched Ascension 8 years ago, and so we always try to come out with a new set. We always try to bring our new stuff, bring our A game, as it were, to the show. And so we've done the same thing here. Some of you guys may have seen this before because it actually released last month, but this is Ascension Delirium, which is our newest Ascension set. And I'll just go through the quick highlights because I'm assuming most of your audience is familiar with Ascension. If you're not, you can download it for free on the App Store on iOS or Android. You can get it on Steam.
Yeah, you're going to download it in the App Store, then you're going to go pay for expansions.
Well, you don't have to, but you will.
But after you play for like a day or two, you're like, all right, I want some expansions.
So that's the easy part, right? You can learn to play the game. You can play it for free. Simple, okay? Assuming you're already hooked on Ascension and you already enjoy the game, this is the new stuff that's here, right? So this is for those of you who are like big fans of Ascension, you'll remember we had a set called Dreamscape a couple years ago. And that used these beautiful little beads right here, which maybe we'll put them on the hand cam. You can see beautiful little beads that are semi-transparent on the hand cam. These things...
I mean, this is going to be transparent in real life, too.
Yeah, these things represent... That's true. They're kind of little dragon eggs. So they represent insight. And insight is a resource that you acquire and it stays from turn to turn.
Yeah.
So one of the things about deck building games, most of the time, you get your resources for the turn, you use it or lose it, and they're gone. This one stays from turn to turn, which gives you some interesting decisions. In Dreamscape, you use those to buy cards that you would then use for that you could then have exclusive access to for your deck. This set is called Delirium, and so we add a little bit more madness. So in this set, you use the insight tokens to roll the Delirium die. Yeah.
I got this. It's a little bit of green screen.
Whoa, crazy! This green screen always trips me out.
Yeah.
So basically, the die has different outputs, as you saw from there. You can banish a card, you can draw 2 cards, you can gain 5 honor, gain 4 power, 3 runes. So when you roll it, it has some always an upside. It's always good for you.
Yeah.
But it varies a lot what you're going to get. And so a lot of the strategy comes around because you have a resource that sticks over from turn to turn, which is very strategic. You have to decide when you want to use it, and then you have this random element. So you want to wait till the board is right. So for example, in the board that you see in front of you here, right, you've got the Delirium Pixies, which when you kill them, they give you 3 runes and 2 honor. And you've got this big bad 7 cost card here, which gives you a lot of honor and has a super, really good power.
Yeah.
So in a world where you had 4 runes, you would want to roll the die because if you got 3 runes, that's 7, you get this.
Yep.
Or if you got 4 power, that's 4 to kill this guy, which would give you the 3 runes you need to kill this. So there's a lot of strategy. We worked very hard to figure out how to fit a die into a deck building game.
Yeah. And
so building it around a very strategic long-term mechanic into a short-term random mechanic really appealed to our audience and created a lot of really cool stuff. So it's taking the same mechanic we had before. Ascension's been around for 8 years. This is our 13th big box expansion. And so we're able to revisit old mechanics that people loved and present them in a totally new way.
Okay.
So this has been a pretty exciting part of it. We have a couple of other mechanics I can highlight real quick here. There's the Fate mechanic, that Fate Auction, which we'll put it up on the hand cam there. Fate Auction says basically whenever a card with Fate shows up, the game stops and an effect happens. And in this case, it's an auction, which means you can bid insight tokens to try to get the effect on that card.
Okay.
So, for example, I could say, all right, I'll bid 2. You can raise up and say you'll bid 3. I'll say I'll bid 4. And then you give up, I pay the 4, and I get the effect on that card.
Okay.
So it's kind of a cool little
But the card still stays in the middle.
The card stays in the middle, exactly right. So almost like you get to play the card for free, but it still stays in the middle. And then the last thing I'll highlight, it's not really a game mechanic, but it's a story mechanic. For those of you that have followed our world for a while, we have like characters that people have really grown to love, like Emery and Cetra and Core, who are very clearly, of course I picked the green one, who are very clearly aligned with a certain faction. And Core is very much a Mechana, like kind of metal and machinery kind of guy. And in this world, because it's Delirium and it's the dreamscape getting kind of crazy and warping reality, everybody shifted factions and their powers are all warped. And so now he's part of the Lifebound faction, which is conveniently green for your green screen. So there's a lot of really cool stuff we were able to play with the set. So if anybody that's out there that's a fan of Ascension, it's a great set to really shake up what they know, actually, roll around and change things. And even if you've never played Ascension, the game's designed to be played by itself and can be totally picked up and started.
Awesome.
So that's my first thing, which is always a classic. I'm gonna slide it down and move to the next one here.
All right. So what do we have next?
Next we have Shards of Infinity. Now, some of you may already be familiar with Shards of Infinity. It's still in Ascension sleeves, which I'll spoil the fact here. We're going to have Shards of Infinity sleeves soon. Shards of Infinity, very similar to Ascension in that you have the same 6-card center row, but unlike in Ascension, you have these starting character cards where you have you start off with 50 health and you 0 mastery. Each turn you're allowed to pay one of your game resources to increase your mastery, and that makes all of the cards in your in the game more powerful. So for example, there's a card here that whenever you use it, it gets you an extra mastery, but if you have 20 mastery when you use it, you also get to draw 2 cards. And even the starting cards in your deck become incredibly powerful. So the Infinity Shard, which the game is named after, starts off only doing 2 damage, but if you can get all the way to 30 mastery and play it, it does infinite damage. And with infinite damage, you can obviously win the game right away, and so there's all this cool stuff that's going on. So we released Shards of Infinity in April, and while I mentioned Ascension is on its 13th set, right, and it's something I've been doing forever, and I love it, and I'll continue to do it for as long as people are continuing willing to buy it. Shards was sort of my take on what is it I would do if I was starting today and building a new deck building game. And so it's much more aggressive, very fast, has the mastery mechanic, allows the game to scale and pace in a really interesting way. And people have loved it. We sold out of our entire first print run. We sold out of our second print run already. We're ordering the third. So it's doing really well. And the thing I want to highlight here is the awesomeness of our expansion, which nobody knows about yet. So this is like an exclusive.
Oh, awesome.
So the expansion is not coming out until October, and it's called Relics of the Future. And why it's called Relics of the Future is because, in addition to a bunch of new cards that can be added into your deck to change play, every character gets 2 relics. And I'll show you those 2 relics here. So these are the 2 relics that belong to Kosin Wu, is the character you saw. What happens is when you get to 10 mastery, you get to pick one of your relics. And the reason it's called Relics of the Future is because these are sort of like possible futures for your character.
All right.
And one of them is very aggressive, and you're trying to deal damage to your opponent. And if you deal 10 or more, you draw a bunch of extra cards. And one of them is working with mercenaries and becoming more building out this army, and so you return mercenaries from your graveyard to your hand. And so it creates a very different dynamic for each player. Each character is unique and starts with a different position, and for core gamers out there, maybe I love when you have like starting powers that are different, but it's so hard to balance them, right? Even in my own games like Ascension, Dawn of Champions had this where every character had their own starting position, but it kind of railroaded you into a strategy, right? If one guy says every time you acquire a Lifebound character, gain a bonus, what are you going to do? Acquire a Lifebound character, right? You end up with and so I enjoyed playing that set, but after a few dozen plays, I got bored of it because I knew once I picked my character, that's what was going to do for me. What we did with the relic mechanic, because you have 2 choices that are very divergent in strategy, you're not railroaded into anything. And then it's only when you're midway through the game that you really make a decision and go down a certain path. So I really feel like we were able to accomplish something that gives you your unique position but doesn't force you down a unique path.
I feel like that helps. Like if you have an opponent, you can kind of adapt to how they're playing and stuff. Be like, I'm going to go this way instead of that way because how my opponent is playing.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I think Shards of Infinity does better than most games of this type, because so much of it is reacting to what your opponent does. Because mastery getting to 30 gives you infinite power when you draw the Infinity Shard, that's one of your tracks to win. So if you think your opponent is going to do better at the mastery than you are, then you want to beat them down and do as much power as possible. Or if they're hitting you with power, you want to try to get shields and life gain and ways to counteract that. So there's very much an interplay back and forth. Along with there's a mechanic called Mercenary, where you can play a card directly out of the center row rather than adding it to your deck, which is really valuable if a card's good for your opponent but not necessarily good for your strategy. So being able to get rid of it and gain some bonus is another huge part of it. So that counterplay is a huge part of deck building games in general, and Shards of Infinity really hones in on that. So the expansions, the main game's out now. The third print run will be in 3 weeks or so. I think we got like another dozen copies here at Gen Con, but after that, in September, we'll have some more copies. And then the expansion comes out in October.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, I got one more exciting thing to show you in my last 5 minutes. This is something totally different than anything I've done before.
Yeah, I see something a little
different.
It's not
even a game. It's not even a game. I actually...
Can we make it a game?
Well, yeah, probably. So this is a book I've just written called Think Like a Game Designer. And in it, I distilled, I've been in the industry for 20 years.
Yeah.
From the time I started as a pro Magic player and U.S. National Champion in '97 to designing my own games for other companies and Marvel and DC and World of Warcraft to actually building a game company. And I distilled those lessons and put them into a book.
Very cool.
In addition, I interviewed top designers like Richard Garfield and Mark Rosewater and Jordan Weissman and huge people and learned that there's just this step-by-step process that everybody uses in one form or another to make games. And so I put that all into this book.
Awesome.
And that's coming out in September, September 9th. But for anybody that's out there, I don't know if is this live now? Or
it's live now.
Okay, live right now. So everybody that's out there listening to this right now, there is a Humble Bundle going on. And
Okay.
Humble Bundle is an awesome thing. For those that don't know, we group together a whole bunch of stuff. We offer it basically for any price you want to pay. The money goes to charity,
Yeah.
and you can get a whole bunch of stuff. So there's a Puzzlecraft game design Humble Bundle that just launched yesterday in honor of Gen Con,
Okay.
where we have incredible books by like really famous designers. We have Mike Selinker has puzzle design books on there. Elisa Teague has books in there. There's Monty Cook, a bunch of other
Everyone.
everybody. I mean, it is like literally if you go to humblebundle.com and you look up there this bundle, I instantly bought it, even though I'm already a part of it, because it's so much good stuff that I wanted to read. And so you can pay $1 and you can get an excerpt from my book. You can get copies of all these other books, or you can donate more, and it all goes to charity.
Yeah.
It goes to Girls Who Code and the other like really worthy charities. And so you can get all that stuff right now, this instant. Support a good cause, learn about games, and you can see what I've been up to for the last 3 years
awesome.
working on this thing. So
Very, very cool.
yeah, it's been a busy year.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Justin, for coming on and showing us what's coming up with
Awesome.
Stoneblade.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone will be back with more Gen Con coverage. Just stay tuned.